Hi everyone, I'm Emma Cowling and I am here tonight to talk to you about 3 steps to discover your ideal role. And the reason for doing this is really to help you to get a better and clearer picture of what is your ideal role and how does that play into your career choices, what you're doing, your day-to-day life. And it really can influence so many areas. Now, often the thing that motivates us most to go and have a checkout with our ideal role is understanding that we want to make a change in career, because that's what gets us to step back and question it. But actually, um, knowing your ideal role can help you in all sorts of different ways. It can help you to figure out what opportunities to take. It can make you think about what to present to your boss about what it is that you do. It can help you to just connect with and understand what's important to you, and where do you want to do your learning? What is it that you want to do? And the first thing I'd really just like to kind of ask you actually is, when you think about your ideal, on a scale of 1 to 10, how clear is it? So if 1 is I haven't got a clue, and 10 is that actually I absolutely know it, then I'd love to know where you are on that scale, and just so that I have an idea where we're going. Now, just to share my intentions today, my intentions is to help, not to help get to a 10. My intention is to take you through a process which would take you to about a 6 or a 7, just to increase your clarity a bit. Because personally, I feel like having absolute clarity and get it all polished, that's not really worth the effort, because these things are evolving and changing all the time. So really what I would like to do is introduce you to these steps which will help you get more clarity and help you evolve it and adapt it as you go along. And so these steps will be there in the background to help you out. So I'm hoping that this will help you to get to that 7 or 8, and just kind of get a bit more clarity, so that you can, number one, when you decide to change in your career, to make that change and know what you're looking for, and hopefully, and this is the part of the process, have a vision, and will have the role there lined up ready for you to change to. And the other thing that this will also help with is to give you more clarity in the background of where you want to develop, how you can shift and change your current role, and the opportunities that you might want to take to do that, to move them more towards something that you really enjoy. So that's my intention today. So I'm going to take you through these 3 steps, and I'm going to do that relatively quickly, but I'm going to give you some examples as I go along. And just to really test the tech, I have a couple of slides as well that I'll be dropping in, so we'll see what happens there too. So number 1, identify your strengths. So this is really about thinking about, well, where are you now and what can you build on? What is it that you've already demonstrated? And doing this gives you a real baseline for kind of what it is that you enjoy, where you might want to develop, where you might want to grow. And then also, if you are applying for jobs, or if you're talking to your boss, it gives you something to go to them with and say, look, this is what I can do, and here's the evidence that I can do it. So how do you do that? Well, to start with, have a think about your achievements. And this is something that I would encourage you to do regularly, is just to check in. And every time you think, yes, I achieved that, that's an amazing thing, or even just that little sense of satisfaction that you get, just do a little bit of a kind of reflection back in about, okay, well, what did I need in order to get this? What are the strengths and what are the skills that I built on in order to make this happen? Now, I know that can sometimes be a challenge, separating what you do from what other people do. And sometimes it's about checking in with ourselves. Sometimes it's about asking other people. And I know I've talked about this in some of the other masterclasses, especially when we're thinking about communicating your value. Just sort of checking in and think about, what did I contribute? And also, what are the things that I enjoyed in what I contributed? And if you do this on a kind of a regular basis, and maybe have a document or somewhere where you can note it down, a mind map, I use mind maps a lot, just to capture it, then it gives you a starting point really for looking as a big picture. So I want to give you an example. Actually, I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what I've done. So I'm going to start with, let me bring this up because I think this is a good way to make it happen. Okay. So an achievement for me, massive achievement, was when I secured funding for Digital Creativity Labs. Now, I didn't do that on my own, and I've talked about this a little bit before, but what I did do was I played a really big role in it. So if I was to talk about this to someone else, well, let me start with actually, what were my strengths as far as I see within this? So my strengths and my skills in doing this were the bringing people together, the thinking about what are their interests, what are the researchers' interests, and what was industry interests, and that's what my job was kind of marrying that all together. So and then looking at that, how do I organize information and present it to other people? How do I help them understand from each other? How do I run workshops to kind of get them to collaborate and see the things that they each bring? And then how do we then put that into a story for funders? Now, I think I was probably less involved in that story because that was something that that my partner was doing, and the lead was doing it. So that's something, just recognizing that. And when I look at that, the thing that I get a buzz from, or I really got the buzz from, was the running the workshops and bringing people together and kind of doing that facilitation. So I'm strong on that. That's something I really enjoy, and it's something that I have developed as I go along. So going from the achievement and just picking out and thinking, well, what did I actually do to make that happen, starts to give me a bit of an idea of the strengths. If I then go into, okay, what would I put on my CV, or what would I take to my performance review, then it turns into something a little bit different. So this is what's actually on my LinkedIn profile and on my CV. And it breaks down into 3 areas. One is the securing the funding and getting the support that we needed. And when you're putting this in and presenting to other people, it's really useful to try and quantify it as much as possible. So it's another level of detail. And this is why I'm saying capturing the ideas, and then when you might go polish them and think about how you present them to different people. So sorry, my puppy is just making a little kind of den on the floor at the moment next to me, so just a little bit distracted. So the first one there, so securing in-kind funding for pledges of more than 12 million. So I'm getting some figures in there to give people an idea of the size of this thing. From 140 plus companies who are games and media industries, across 2 big bids. So there's actually 2 bids here, Iggy and Digital Creativity Labs, totaling 30 million in total. So this is trying to really put together a, wow, this is what I did, and to give the size of it. And then we go down into the kind of think about, okay, so I managed contacts. And so what was I doing? I was bringing people together, and I was doing that contact management and helping people to connect. And then I was also working with the academics to help them deliver. And so understanding what it was that they needed to do to sell their research. So on my CV, this one achievement breaks down into multiple things. And I've got other things to back it up that feed into that area. But I find it really useful to start with the, what have I achieved? How do I break that down? And then how can I sell that to people on my CV? So hopefully it's useful to see it in this way. Now I'm going to give a second quick outline for this an example of achievement, which is quite different. If I go back to when I was in my early days of my career and I was doing software development, one of the cool things I got to do was deliver some software which tracked ejector seats. Sounds mad, but it was pretty cool, and it was just a great project to be involved in. And if you want to know more, I'll come ask me sometime, and I'll tell you about it later. So in delivering that ejector seat traffic tracking software, I was talking to customers about their requirements. I didn't actually develop the software from scratch. I took someone else's software and I adapted it with their support. So I'm not going to claim that I developed it from scratch. I did some I worked with those other people and those other developers in a team. And so there's some team building skills there, and being able to work with others. I actually then developed the user interface based on the requirements, and I had to write a user guide. So there were kind of these key things within that project that I was involved in, and that I can use this as a sort of evidence that I've got these capabilities. And then if I take a look at how I put this on my CV, well, I actually talk more broadly about the algorithms and software and user documentation that I've delivered for several different applications. And actually, these were across acoustics, image processing, and pattern recognition and image processing together. So that groups together, and I can put those on my CV. And the other lovely thing about this, which I haven't mentioned, is that if you've got the statements at the top level, you'll notice that they don't say anything about the how or the details of that. And the idea is that what happens is that you present this stuff to your boss or to someone in interview, and then you know about the details. You can talk about the achievement, you can talk about the strengths, you can talk about your skills as examples when you then go into that interview or that discussion. So these have all got information behind them to sort of say, yes, I really did do this. I believe and I know that I did this. And what this does is it gives you a bit of confidence. It helps you see what it is that you're doing. And that's really, really useful. So hopefully that gives you a bit of kind of meat on the bones, a bit of an understanding of what it can mean to kind of take and develop your strengths and your skills, and how that might feed through into other parts of your career and your role. And we're now going to talk about how that feeds into your ideal. So you've got your strengths, right? And that gives you a basic point for where you are now. Now, let's sketch out your ideal. Now, I deliberately talk about this as sketching out because I think it's when we start to talk about ideal stuff, it can get quite scary and it can feel quite intense. But I like to think about it as an evolving process where you might be like a drawing, sketching in some lines, and I've posted something about this in the group, but sketching in the lines and then filling some bits in some places and filling, colouring other bits in other places and going to the level of detail that you want in different places. So that's really kind of what we would start with, and as you go along, you can build it up. Now, where you would then go, well, where would you start with this? And just really thinking about what could feed in. And I'm going to ask now a series of different questions that I would encourage you to just notice. Do you know the answer? Or actually, do you need to do some more research? And this is what I mean by sketching. It's kind of just saying, okay, do I know that? Yeah, I've got it. Don't I? Okay. Is it important? No, ignore it. Is it something that is important to me to know about? Okay, I'll go away and do some research. So this takes away the pressure of needing to know the answer, and it kind of flags up in your head, well, I need to look out for the answer of that. It's going to come up somewhere, and we'll take out the how in the next step. So one of those questions in your ideal is, what are your strengths? And what are the strengths that you enjoy? What are the skills and the capabilities that you enjoy? So going back to step one, what are those things that came up? So I have a comment here. So from someone, meeting people, saying hi, breaking the ice. Fantastic strength to have. And if you enjoy it, then let's use it and let's build on it. Let's look for kind of an ideal role, but make sure that what comes into it is meeting people and saying hi and breaking the ice and working with other people. Now, I suspect this might be Tony. So I know that is definitely part of her role as a teacher, but it might be someone else. And so if it's not something, if those things aren't coming through as a core part of your role, those things that you enjoy, then this gives you a kind of a nudge to say, right, this is something that I might want to have. So hopefully you can see how you can just start to build the picture up. The other things that you might want to think about within this is, well, what's your requirement, and do you have any needs for your salary or where you're based or the working hours that you have? Do you have any particular restrictions? It might be that you have a minimum salary, that you need to have minimum income, that you want to have it coming in. And it's useful to know that minimum. And then you might also have an ideal that would take your life to another level or allow you to buy a house or something like that. So just knowing what those things are really, really useful things to just have noted down. And as I'm saying that, you might think, oh, okay, so maybe that's a thing to go away and research. What do I spend each month, and what would I like to have as an income each month? Could that change the salary that I actually ask for? And sometimes we trade this off and decide that actually I'm going to take a lower salary in order to do something that fits me more, or going the other way, I'm going to really kind of sacrifice something else here in order to get the higher salary. So just understanding that can really help. Where do you want to be based? Is that important? If it's not important, and maybe you just want to travel the world, then that's cool. Do you have requirements on you according to your kids' needs, or the hours that you can work? Would you like to be working flexibly? There's the other thing you might want to do is, how does this fit with your life? How does this fit with the interests that you have? So, for example, I started to learn to kite surf a little while ago, and we went away for a couple of weeks, for a couple of days over a week's holiday. And we got to go and learn to kite surf. And then I realized that in order to do this properly, I was really going to need to be able to drop anything at short notice and just go when the wind was right. And there was no way that my job would allow me to do that. What's really interesting is that we've realized that that's probably more within reach now. So maybe I'm going to start kite surfing, but who knows? I'm going to leave that out there because COVID's got to disappear first. But it's just starting to think about your interests and how you want your ideal role to fit with those interests. How does it fit with your family? How does it fit with taking the dog for a walk, or picking the kids up, or doing their interests with them and things like that? So how does it fit with them? And then I'm just going to check what else I'm saying here. Your mission. We talk a lot in this group about mission, and I think knowing your mission is really important. Your ideal will ideally build on the difference you want to make in the world, the things that you want to get out there, the difference you want to make to people's lives. So building that in and understanding how that can come through into your ideal role can be really important. And in a sense, that's really, if when you look at my Reboot Your Career session that I do, my introductory session, that's where we really focus, is on the what's going on and what's really important to you, and how do you bring that through into your ideal role and into your career. So kind of understanding your mission and where that shows up is really important, to give you the big picture, to allow you to step away from the detail and understand where you might want to be going. And then the other thing that you might want to think about is culture. So what's important to you? What's going on? What's happening in the environment that you're going to be working in? Are there certain things, certain places that you just wouldn't want to work in? And just starting to build that in. And when you start to look at your values, which again we've done quite a bit in this group, understanding the values of the company and the values that you have and how they match together can be really important. So that helps you to figure out the ideal. So what I'd really just encourage you to do now is just reflect now and think about, from what I've talked about, are there any areas that you're clear on and particularly clear on? And are there areas where there is some research to do? Is there some stuff that you would like to go and follow up? And maybe that's going to help you hone that number that we did at the start. So I asked you from a 1 to 10, where are you on your ideal, or a 0 to 10, where 0 is low and 10 is high, and that you know exactly what you want to do. And what you might find that as we go through this is that you actually know more than you think you do. Because I suspect that you do. I suspect that underneath all of this, you have more of an idea than you think you do of what your ideal is. And what we're really doing is just helping you be clear on that and put it out. So I'd love it if you dropped in the comments again anything that particularly comes through that you think, oh yeah, I want to go and explore that in a bit more detail. Where do I want to do some research? Where would I like to understand a bit more? Rather than what do I know, just tell me where your areas of research at the moment. What would you like to explore a bit more? Because that is step 3. Go out and do your research. Now, what do I mean by this? So what I mean is to take those areas and go and talk to people. Go and start to look at people who are doing things. And take the things that you've picked up that you enjoy, start with that, and kind of think about, well, what sort of job might involve that, and go and speak to some people doing that job. Go and find out what it is that they do. Go and find out what that job's really like. ask them about the great things and the terrible things, because there's always good and bad things in a job, isn't there? So we, instead of getting kind of creating this ideal that kind of we made up in our imagination, now go and check it out in the world and find out about it. See what happens, see what comes through, see what inspiration comes through as a result of that. And then for those areas that you don't know about, where can you go to find out about them? So if you're wanting to develop your mission, go through the stuff in the group and let me help you kind of evolve that. Come and book a session with me, a Reboot Your Career session. Let me help you kind of hone that in relation to your career. You might, if you're thinking about salary, maybe it's time to start kind of taking a look at where do you spend your money? Do you really want to spend your money there? What's your basic level? What's your monthly income? And that for me, that basic monthly income has been really surprising when I've started my own business, when I've started really paring back and saying, well, what do I really need to survive? It's been kind of really useful to have that as a starting point. And then start to say, and if I was living a very comfortable life, or if I was going out as much as I wanted, what would that then be on top of that? So go and pick one area, and don't feel like you have to do it all at once. Pick one that you want to explore in more detail to start with. Pick the one that you're drawn to and go and explore it. But the thing that I would do more than anything is go and talk to people about it and use them to do your research. Now, the reason for that, the reason I'm encouraging you to do that, is that especially if you pick people who are doing something that you enjoy and that you think, oh, that could be a role for me. When you start talking to these people, it tells people that you are looking, that you're interested. It opens up a conversation with them to help you to start to understand, number one, what's the reality? Do I really want to do this thing? And number two, it tells them what you do, so that if a job comes up that they're aware of, and they're more likely to see this and come across these jobs because they're working in that role, if they see something, you will come to mind. So they will come to you and say to you, hey, you know, you were talking about the fact that you were interested in this. Well, this job's appeared. And then you get first dibs on it. You get to know about it early in advance, and it gives you the chance to put your application in. And you'll probably be applying to someone who, even if they don't, it's not them that's doing the interview or actually doing the recruitment, you'll probably have a recommendation and an introduction. So you'll have a backdoor in. And this is the best way, I think, because I don't like doing interviews and I don't like kind of the endless applying to random jobs, not knowing whether I'll get it. I think this is one of the best ways of finding a job, through introduction, through contacts, through your network. And it's more likely to result in you finding the thing that you want to do. So okay, doing your research there are all sorts of angles to this, but for me, the most valuable bit, as I said, is getting out and meeting people. So just to give you now an example of that, I've used this with people before, so if you've heard it, then hopefully I'll get some more insight from hearing it again. When I made the shift from Southampton up to York, I was working in an engineering company, decided I wanted to work in a COO type role. It took me quite a while to do the research and to kind of to make that leap. But what happened was that someone I spoke to, who I thought could help introduce me into COO type roles and had the connections, he actually was doing a job that I didn't know what it was. And through having a conversation with him, I found out more about his job. And he found out more about what I could do. And then what happened was he decided to move on. And when he decided to move on, he went, oh, I know someone that could do that. And so he contacted me and said, there's this job that's come up that I'm leaving from. Would you be interested? I think you'd be perfect for it. Now, this was a job that I didn't know existed. I would never have looked to find it because I didn't know what it was called or what it was. It was a business development manager at a university. I would never looked where it was advertised. I wouldn't have come across it at all. And actually, it was the perfect role for me right then. So by getting out there and talking to people, who knows what might come up? It might not be immediately. You might walk away from it thinking, oh, well, that was a waste of time. And then it turns into something later down the line. So it's really, really valuable to do that. So I'm conscious of time, and I'm actually nearly there. Yeah, and Tony says networks make the dream work. Yeah, they do. They absolutely make the dream kind of come together. And if you like people, then networking is easier. But if you don't, if you find it difficult reaching out to people, start with people you know and ask them to introduce you. You don't have to reach out to strangers. And at the end of the day, this is just a conversation. Most people want to help. Most people are willing to help in this. So that's my 3 steps. My final thing here, though, is to iterate. So as you can see, there are bits within this that you could keep on going, and you can hone it to be a level 10. But I would say stay with being at a level 7 or 8, or even a 6. Just get some more clarity. At any point where you think, do I know my ideal? Do I know what I'm going for here? Have I lost connection? Whether you're looking for a job or whether you're just kind of a bit fed up of what you're doing, it can help you to step back and say, okay, what do I need to do? Where do I want a new opportunity? What might I ask my boss for? Okay. So this is the process I'm taking you through. So number 1, identify your strengths. Figure out what it is that you need, that you have already. Number 2, sketch out your ideal. Number 3, then go and do some research. And then, based on your research, you can choose to learn more. It can focus where you do your opportunities to show and to develop yourself. It can kind of help you understand more about you. And that feeds back into your strengths and what you're achieving. So you're building and growing and learning all the time. At the same time, you can, as a result of your research, you can add more detail to your sketch. You can fill in a bit of an area. You can take it and take it further. And finally, as a result of all of that, as it iterates, what you find is that you're choosing the things that fit with your ideal, and so you end up doing way more of what you enjoy. So, as I said, whether this is for a career change or whether it's just to do more of what you enjoy in your current career and your current job, then this works really well for both of those. So that's really the stages that I wanted to take you through. And I would love it if you have any questions, please do drop them in here. The final thing that I will say, though, before we sign off, is that my Reboot Your Career session, I've mentioned a couple of times. If you are interested in taking that up, then what I'm offering is, at the moment, it's a £99 session. It's an hour with me. What we do, as I said, is we kind of go into the detail of the mission side of things and how that feeds through into your career. So it helps you get the big picture about where you want your career to go. And then we can look at some of these areas as well. So I help kind of got this process in mind, but I tend to dig into how do we understand your mission and your big picture and where you want to go so that you can then decide the steps to take. So that is something that I offer. There are links. I will drop a link in the comments below so you can book that. The big thing that I've got going on at the moment is that it was until tomorrow, I have a special offer on that. If you book it by the end of April, then you get 10% off any further sessions you book with me. Because sometimes what happens is that people, they want to do a starter and then actually they decide to carry on. So if you're thinking about making a change or you'd like to go into a bit more detail with this, then booking a one-off with me and doing it quickly. And I'm actually going to extend that to the end of next week, so to next Friday, which must be the 7th, I think. So if you book it before Friday the 7th, you will get 10% off any further sessions that you book with me. So I hope that's clear. If you want to know more, DM me and I am happy to have a conversation and talk about it.